All right.
Hey guys, excited about a great week here. And, one thing that is great about being at Ohio State is you get a chance to be around the best fans in the land. And I know that this week is going to be, a huge opportunity for us to show a nation, what the best damn fans in the land look like. And so talked about it on the radio show, and this is going to be that type of game where, we got to be loud on third down every time they have the ball, and certainly the atmosphere is going to be tremendous. So looking forward to this week of prep and challenging our guys this week to have the best week of preparation they've had all season, and then get after it on Saturday.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach. We'll open the floor up for questions. Gabe Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, when you guys win the toss, are you ever tempted to take the ball first? Let's take weather out of it. Weather's neutral. Are you ever tempted to take the ball first to get some momentum?
Yeah.
Most coaches decide to kick off. But are you ever tempted to take the ball first?
Yeah. And, we try to make that decision based on the game and what's going on. But just decided to defer last week, which allows you an opportunity to get the ball in the second half and do some good work in the middle eight. So, you think about those things going in, but we decided to defer last week. And, it's fine when you get a 3 and out. It's not fine when, you're not getting them off the field on third down and, they're kind of controlling the first quarter. So it kind of led to a slow start, but it really wasn't so much the decision as it was the execution.
At tight end, how do you feel about your tight end room overall, and how close is Will to coming back?
He's gonna get out there and practice this week. We'll see how he does, and we're hoping to have him available for Saturday. And the tight end room is growing, and we're getting more and more guys out there, which is good for our team.
Over to the right, Adam King, WBNS.
Kind of a sidebar, but did you see the play on Jeremiah there in the Northwestern game, and did you guys turn that into Big Ten?
Yeah, we did. Well, we turned it in, and I think we're waiting to hear back.
Is he doing okay?
Yeah. Yep. Good to go.
And then you guys the playoff starts early almost for you. Everything is championship from here on out. How do you mentally prepare for that, knowing it could be, you hope, 6 straight games of tough competition?
Yeah, you can't look at it that way. We're going to approach every game the same way. And, it's going to come down to, our leaders leading the way and, using the experience that they've had late in the season, the last few years. And I think that's one of the things about this team is that these guys have been through, multiple seasons together. And so, it's easy to lose focus, when you're young on, what's going on, across the country or what's going on in the future, what's going on in the past. The most important thing is focusing on what's going on right now. And we got a top 5 matchup right here at home, and we got everything on the line, opportunity to go to Indy, reach our goals. So, we'll talk about that in the team meeting today, but I know our guys are focused. Started on Sunday night, had a great Sunday. Those guys, we're getting some extra work in here on film yesterday. And so, we have a great week of practice though.
Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast.
Ryan, I know last week there was a lot of discussion about the noon games and how they've been perceived around the Big Ten or around Ohio State. But from a recruiting specific standpoint, is there any frustration that it's preventing you guys from maybe getting full accounting what you want to do as a recruiting operation, what it's costing you from guys visiting, et cetera?
Well, the great news is there's going to be a great environment on Saturday. And, for our recruits to be able to come in and see that is a huge advantage for us in recruiting, just to see the rewards of the work that you put in and the fan support and what game day atmosphere is like. And, where, for those who are done with their high school year, it's a lot easier for them to come in for a noon game. For those who are a little bit further away, who are still in the playoffs, it's a little bit more difficult for them to get here. So, we manage it the best we can. And, we get great coverage on TV. These guys can watch it on TV, who are a little bit further away. So, I think we'll have a great crowd here. I think we got a bunch of recruits coming in. So, we'll manage it. We don't have anything to do with the times of the games. We just make it work. And those who will be here will really enjoy it.
The world that we're in now, how much harder is the evaluation of assistants when it comes to recruiting? Because there are times when things happen that may be outside of their control.
Yep.
How are you judging that, or is there a way that it's affected how you evaluate that?
Well, I think at the end of the day, as an assistant coach nowadays, you have to make sure you have a room that has depth and that has production. Now, what does that look like? Well, it used to be, like you said, how many guys did you bring in the recruiting class? Now that's a little bit different. One, did you retain the guys that you recruited or were in the program the year before? Two, did you have to, look into the portal to upgrade your room? How did you create depth with the resources that you provided? And, that may be, you can't just sign all first rounders, like in the NFL draft. You have a first round draft pick, you have a second round draft pick, you have a third round draft pick. Well, it's the same way in recruiting now. You have to, build a room accordingly. And that's the job of the assistant coaches to do that, and the position coach to make sure he's got depth. And, you want to bring in guys that you can develop, because that's a big part of our culture. But sometimes you got to fill in holes, and that's each guy's job. So while it was a little bit easier to identify probably a few years ago when you were just looking at who they brought in the high school class, I think it's changing a little bit that way.
Spencer Holbrook, Lettermen Row.
Brian, the last time you guys faced passing offense like this Indiana one, you guys had some struggles against Oregon. How confident are you that you guys are have made the proper corrections, that you're ready for a challenge like this?
Yeah, I think our guys have done a great job of identifying the things that early in the season we need to do a better job at, and so this will be a great challenge for them and a great test to see where we're at. I think our guys are excited to play in this game. It's a very good challenge. They have a very good team. They have good talent at the receiver position, and so I know our guys are excited for the challenge. And I think you've seen improvement in different areas, but again, this will be a great test for them.
Cameron T. Robinson, the Athletic.
Brian, I think that touchdown Northwestern scored was just the second touchdown you guys have given up since the working. I know Jim, after losses or even after Jake Williams always says he gets a better teacher for the guys. In your time with him, what have you seen, or how can you explain who Jim is as a teacher? So then when you get into games like Northwestern or even Purdue, when you have to experiment with Jack, guys are prepared.
Yeah, I think we all have ownership of what goes on, and that's all of our job, to take accountability. I think when it goes the other way, you start to point fingers, then that's not very good for the culture of the team. But we all have to do that, and we have to be honest with ourselves. And even after wins like we've had the last couple of weeks, the issues are still there. We say it all the time, and then being honest with each other, like, is that championship level play? And if so, enhance it. If not, you got to get it fixed. And a big part of that is teaching, like we're talking about. I mean, that's what we are as coaches. We're teachers, and the test is really the game on Saturday. And do you grade out a champion or not grade out a champion? If you didn't grade out a champion, you got to figure out what happened, what went wrong. Where along the line did your teaching go wrong? Was it what you asked them to do? Was it the way that you train them? And so I think that's all coaches look at it that way. But when you're a coordinator and you're putting it all together, you're ultimately responsible.
Andrew Gillis, Cleveland.com.
Brian, obviously the next 2 weeks and maybe 3 are obviously very important for you on the field, but National Signing Day is in 2 weeks. So how are you guys kind of planning on juggling that as a staff, where it's the most important part of the season for you guys on the field? You also have to kind of deal with the circus that it is off the field.
Yeah, that's end of November, early December, this time of year. It's been like this now for a few years, a little bit different, I guess, with things getting moved up, but it's just kind of what it is, and you got to recruit every day, but you also have a game you got to go win. And so it's multitasking at the highest level, but we got great people in the building here that help with all of that and help with the communication.
Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
When Will decided to come here, one of the biggest reasons that he decided to come here was because he wanted to develop into a top first, second round draft pick. When you looked at him when he got here in January as to where he is now, where is he taking the biggest step in that regard to being a better NFL prospect?
I think the first thing is he's got a command on how we're trying to run our offense. I think he's got a good handle on protection, the run game. But I also think, he's seeing the route structures and how we do things and progressions better. I think his footwork is timing up better with the routes. I think he's got a good handle on our receivers. He's learning, more and more about third down, red zone, 2-minute. And that's really how you win games as a quarterback, as you start to continue to get higher levels of football. So a big part of it is his preparation. Not that he didn't do that where he was before, but you just see it growing each week.
Bill Landis, Kings of the North, and the podcast.
Right, I think Emeka had 12 touches when you guys played Oregon, and I think he's had 12 in the 4 games since then. Are teams doing anything to make it more difficult to get him the ball? Is it ever in your mind as the game is happening, like, hey, we have to make sure Emeka's getting his hands on the ball?
I think one of the things from this year, when you just look at the number of plays we've had, and then when you look at the number of possessions we've had, they're down, and that's because we're huddling and going a little bit slower on offense for a lot of different reasons. But when you also have a game where the end of the game is kind of getting a little bit run into the ground, and those guys aren't playing the last couple of possessions, that adds up too. So I think that plays into it. And I shared this with our team, and I probably shared this with you guys. Down the stretch with our guys, and we have a lot of really good players who want the ball in their hands. But a big part of this team here wants to win, and so we all have to be willing to sacrifice, and we have to be unselfish, because we've had guys who have won awards before, and had number one this, number one that, but ultimately, like, this team wants to win, and they have one mindset. So to me, it's not about touches, and the guys have been great about that. I think Emeka's been a great example. I think both running backs have been a great example of that. It's like, I just want to do whatever I can to win the game, and those awards will come over time with a body of work. But there are going to be games where you're going to look at this, the stat sheet, and not see as gaudy numbers as maybe we've had in the past. But that's also because of the tempo, how we're running the offense now.
I guess along those lines, I remember last year at Notre Dame, Emeka has a huge game for you guys. Touched the ball a lot against Oregon. He scored against Penn State this year. He does, regardless of how the season's flowing, he seems to have moments when you guys play big games. And I'm not asking you to divulge game plan here, but how much is it on the top of your mind when you're preparing for a game like this? Like, who are your guys that have showed you already that you can count on them in these situations?
Yeah, we try to have a balanced attack going into every game. We try not to just focus on one player or one personnel grouping or one formation. We try to spread the ball around. Now, the coverage will dictate where the ball goes, but where we put the pieces, and I think Brian's always done a great job of that, and Chip is a big part of that, as well as where is everybody at? The ball's not just going here. It's not just going to the receiver. It's not just going to the tight ends. It's not just going to the running backs. We try to move that thing around and not just focus on one guy. We try to spread it around, and then the game is going to go where it goes. But I think our guys deserve that. I think all of our receivers who play deserve the ball. They work on the perimeter in terms of blocking. They're very productive, and it's the same thing with the tight ends and the running backs. So. I think that also puts the most amount of stress on the defense when you have to defend everybody.
Don Taveri, WBNS.
Coach, I don't know how many of us would have predicted a top 5 matchup with Indiana being 10-0. When you look at them, and this team was 3-9 a year ago, what jumps out as you look at this football team?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that I don't think their players get enough credit. I think that, coaches have done a great job, and they're, they've done a nice job this year, but, the players are the ones who play, and they have good players, and they've done a nice job of changing their roster or upgrading their roster in certain areas. I think they play very hard. They are well coached. They take care of the football. They cause turnovers. They play well in special teams, and, their best players play on special teams, for instance, their top running back is back there as a protector in the punt, and which does a lot of things. Like, it shows that special teams are important to them, but it also makes you be aware that, hey, there's a running back there when you're punting. So I think there's a lot of things they've done, but you can see that they've been very successful in everything they've been looking to do in terms of installing a culture, in all 3 phases, and so it's going to be a great challenge for our team. We're looking forward to it.
Is very confident. He has said some things, collision course with greatness and all this, said some things. Do you pay any attention to any of that stuff that's been said?
Well, everybody has to motivate their team, and certainly when you feel like you have good players, then it certainly gives you confidence. And I think he's done a great job of instilling that. But ultimately, this is always about us, in our preparation. Every week, we try to keep the same routine and focus on us. Now, you got to know your opponent. It's very, very important to know their tendencies and what they do. But in order to be consistent week in and week out, you got to keep the same routine. And that's about our routine. That's about our focus and what we need to do, and all the different, core values that we believe in terms of winning games. And that'll be the same this week.
Matt Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, not every game, but you guys have had times where maybe the offense starts slow, defense starts slow. I think you could say Saturday was a little bit of both. When you have looked back at some of those slow starts on either side of the ball, do you see any common connections or things that have been pointed out to try and get those faster starts, which obviously going forward you'll need?
I think we all have the same expectation that, every time we touch the ball, we're going to go right down and score. And every time the defense goes out there, we're getting 3 and outs. But the truth is that we play against good teams and they have good players, and, they're going to move the ball every now and again and convert on some third downs and get some stops on defense. So, that's part of the game, but we're always looking to do better in terms of our execution. If there's some different things to get thrown out at us, we have to adapt to those things and identify how teams are coming at us. But I see us, right from the jump playing hard. I see us playing physical. I see us playing with an edge, and then that's got to continue this week. That's got to carry over into these big games at the end of November. But I think you're used to probably seeing more, like in the past years, again, more possessions. You're just not seeing that. So sometimes those quarters drag on a little bit, or maybe seem to go fast. I don't know how you look at it, but you look at the end of the first quarter and there's only been a couple possessions. You're like, wow, that was a fast quarter. Well, we got to get off the field on third down on defense. But, when you get to stop there on the fumble, you're doing your job. So at the end of the day, it comes down to efficiency. That it comes down to a high level of execution when you're not getting as many possessions. And that's what we got to do.
Do you expect, as you get into postseason, that maybe teams will speed up a little bit as they try to not, take the ball from you guys as much as possible? It'll look more like a game we're more used to.
I can see that. Yeah. I think it just depends on the team, depends on the matchup, depends on what the other team's looking to do. But I think everyone's going to do whatever they possibly can to win the game, whatever they think that's best. And we have to be able to win any type of those games. But ultimately it comes down to us, and whether we're getting off the field on third down and keeping the drives going on offense and scoring touchdowns in the red area.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Obviously, when you're evaluating guys as recruits, learn as much as you can about that. And once he gets into your program, there's maybe things that you couldn't have learned then that you know now. With Caleb, what did you think of him as a recruit? And then what's the thing that he has maybe shown you guys over the last 11 months that even when you guys were evaluating him coming out of high school, you had no idea that he was this?
With Caleb in the recruiting process, you could tell at a young age, he just really loved football. And when you talk football, he was listening, and you better know what you're talking about when you get around him. That's the first thing you realize. And he comes from a football family. His brother, his dad, even mom. They know football now. So that's the first thing. And then you recognize the competitiveness. You saw it in high school. You see it now. He wants to always be involved in the games. It doesn't matter what the score is. He's bugging me about getting back in the game. Doesn't matter what the score is. Give me a shot. Give me one more series. That's just the way he's built. And it's contagious. And his energy, his passion for the game, I think really carries over to the rest of the guys on the team. And it's infectious.
IQ that he has. You see it a lot of times with quarterbacks, right? Like I think CJ was like this, where he could recount all types of stuff. Can you teach that, or is that something that is just kind of an innate trait that a kid has at his age?
It's a lot of times it's innate. The more reps you get, guys can start to get a feel for it more and more. But there's just certain things that guys have. They can see things before it happened, and that's the whole idea of anticipating as opposed to reacting. And the more preparation that you do, the more you can anticipate. He does a lot of work. He's here early in the morning. He's here late at night. He's watching film. He's getting extra work whenever he possibly can on the field. And because of that, this is what happens. And this is not just somebody who shows up right before meetings start and goes home when the whistle blows. He's here. He's working. And that leads to that. So, there are some natural instincts there, but then there's also the hard work that gets put in behind the scenes. It doesn't just, happen. So I think it's a great example for the rest of our players and for our younger players to see somebody who puts in that type of work.
Dan Hope, Lettermen Warriors.
Indiana's done a good job of, putting pressure on opponents this year up front on their defense. Do you feel like this offensive line, the chemistry you've been able to build the last few weeks is where it needs to be ready for this challenge?
Yeah. This is going to be a great challenge for the offensive line. I know they're excited about it. It's a very good and productive, and they've like you said, put up a lot of numbers and done a great job. They're moving every snap. They're penetrating, and they do a nice job with it. So I think our guys are excited about the challenge, and the game's going to be one up front.
It seems like Donovan's gotten more and more comfortable each week at left tackle. How does that maybe kind of help you guys in terms of being able to game plan now that he's got a few games under his belt there?
Yeah, you know what to expect. I think going into the Penn State game, you weren't too sure because you hadn't done it much. Now at least you have a body of work to work off of. So you know what you're getting right there. And the more he plays it, the more comfortable he's getting.
Tony Girdman, Buckeye Huddle.
How much time is spent with Will talking about what he might see that you guys haven't seen from Indiana at all this year? With the week off that they have?
Yeah. You try to do things that, he knows well, but then also have some change ups. And, I think for him, he's got some experience under his belt. He's seen a lot of different things. So if there's things that come up, we'll make adjustments as time goes on. But the good news for him is, he's played a lot of football. This isn't his first, big game that he's been in.
So how much would that change if you're talking with a sophomore rather than a fifth-year guy?
Yeah, that's significant. Yeah, it is. Yeah, because you just don't have those banked reps in your mind. You haven't been through it before. And, have you ever done this before? Yes. Okay, hey, we're going to do this. Have you ever done this before? No. All right, well, that's going to take a lot of work during a week, and you only have a few days to get ready. So, that plays into the game planning part of it, I would say.
Steve Hillwagon, 24/7 Sports.
Hey, Coach. Curtis Rourke came from Ohio University, and he was a really good run-pass guy at OU. He had over 800 yards rushing in his career, and this year he's netted 17. Now, they played a lot of blowout games. He hasn't had to run the ball, kind of like your quarterbacks in the blowouts, you don't run them. Is that a wrinkle that in a matchup game that you guys are preparing for, that he's got that in his repertoire?
Sure.
Is that something that is involved in preparing for him, and just what do you see with him?
Yeah, no, he's played good football this year, and he has athleticism and can make guys miss and run, and you've seen him, obviously the numbers that he had leading into the season. So we got to make sure we're playing it honest. But I think he's played good football this year. The numbers speak for themselves, and he's very accurate in what he does, and he knows what he's doing. He's played a lot of football, so he's an experienced guy. So again, great challenge for our team.
Pro Football Focus had Lathan Ransom as the number 2 rated safety for however their grades go in the country. I don't know what you guys have him at. Probably pretty high. Seems like he's played pretty well, but just your thoughts about him. And I mean, is it outlandish to think that you have both of the first team safeties in the Big Ten with Lathan Ransom and Caleb Downs? I mean, it seems like they both had pretty good years.
Well, the first thing I'll say about Lathan and Caleb is they both bring a lot of energy to the table, and they're leaders. And again, energy is contagious. Execution fuels emotion, and they're executing well too. So they need to have great games. In this game, our best players have to play well. I mean, that's just the way it goes when you're in these types of games. And I think Lathan, has played a lot of football here. You're seeing some of the best play right now. He's physical. He prepares. He cares a lot about his teammates. He cares a lot about Ohio State. He came back to win, and I'm glad he's a Buckeye.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Both you and Indiana. I mean, Indiana's really rebuilt their team with transfers. You've supplemented the roster with, and all your top 4 guys are really hit the jackpot with. How important has that been, obviously, but more importantly, what's the challenge of fitting those kind of guys into your culture? Because that's probably the key, right?
Yeah, I think what's unique about this situation is that, Coach Ignetti came over from James Madison and brought a core with him. So there was already a group of guys that knew the culture, and then he, integrated it with those guys, had some success early, and then it's just kind of grown from there. And I think that's a winning recipe. I think when you come in, without having guys who know, your culture, that's a little bit of a different approach. And, for us, we want to make sure we're retaining as much of the roster as possible on a yearly basis, knowing that that's not possible to do everybody, but to keep the culture alive and to make sure we're recruiting the right people for our program. But, every program has their own philosophies in a different situation and has to respond appropriately. But at the end of the day, it's about, having a team who believes in, what you're trying to get done as a program, and then, also wants to play for each other. That's the thing about this team here. Like, they're not worried about individual accolades or anything like this, especially late in the season. Like, they're focused on winning, and they want to play for each other. And when you have that, you have a chance.
And maybe ask you to state the obvious, but just how crucial have those 4 guys been to the success this year?
Yeah, they've been a big part. not only just the production, but the leadership. And I think they've also just been respectful of the culture, respectful of the program, and the fact that they didn't just come in and just start, barking at everybody. They earned the respect of their teammates, and then, really fell into it. Now, when you look at Seth and Will, they're both playing leadership positions, and so that naturally happened. But they've been excellent in those areas.
Austin Ward, podcast.
Ryan, I can't remember a time that Denzel has ever been lacking in self-confidence, but the last few weeks, and maybe dating back to Oregon, just he looks frustrated. Even the throw on the sideline that he gave up on Saturday, just like after the play, just he looks frustrated. Are you sensing that from him? What is the confidence level he's working with right now?
Yeah, I think he's going to have a great game this weekend. I think he's going to have a great week of preparation. Had a great conversation with him the other day, and he's excited about playing in this game. And they completed that one on the other day, but he knows he's got to play his best in big games. And I think he's going to have a great week of practice, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play on Saturday.
You mentioned earlier just like the challenge for the pass defense and what Indiana's bringing. If you the last 4 games since Oregon, what have you guys thought about the evaluation for Denzel and Davison?
Yeah, I think there's been really good, aggressive. There's been other things that we got to get better at, just like everybody else. But we know we're going to get challenged out there. I mean, that's just the way it is. Especially now and in this game, they're going to challenge us on the perimeter. That's just the way it works. So, our guys got to learn from things that have gone on in the past and make those adjustments. And I know Tim and Matt and all those guys are working hard in the back end to make sure that we're giving them the best chance to do that. But the bottom line is, this coaching staff and all of us believe in those guys. We love their competitiveness. We love who they are. They're team players, and excited to see their week of work and excited to see them play on Saturday.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
When you guys have faced good receivers before this year in Oregon, just wondering how this group of Indiana guys, their pass catchers, it seems like they got a lot of guys who've been able to score, just the depth and the overall. They got like 4 or 5 guys who've had multiple touchdowns this year. What makes them a good receiving board?
Yeah, they're very productive. They made a lot of plays this year, and looked like they run really good routes and have good ball skills. And so we've played good receivers before, but these guys are just on par with those guys. And so again, we got to get to work this week and make sure that we have a great week of preparation so that our guys know what it's going to feel like on Saturday. But the combination of the route running, the throwing, the catching, and the way that the quarterback and the receivers work has been very productive up into this year. So again, big for our guys this week.
Melton was on the unavailable list last week. Just what's his status?
Yeah, he's going to practice today, and we'll kind of monitor as the week goes on.
We'll wrap things up. Tim May, Lettermen Row.
Yeah, Ryan, how simple does it make it from a motivation standpoint? By the way, thanks, Jerry. How simple does it make from a motivation standpoint to face your team like yesterday and go, we win, we're in, winning takes care of everything. I mean, how simple does it make it in that aspect here in this last three games you want to play in the conference, including the championship game?
Well, it's been like that, really since after the Oregon game. That hasn't changed. You lose any one of those games, then you're out. So that's not changed. We've always monitor, after the game's over, Saturday night, Sunday morning, what's going on across the conference. We saw, Indiana is becoming a big game. It's now a top 5 matchup. So yeah, our guys are fired up for this one and know that this is a must win for us. We got to go win this game to go play in Indianapolis. And I know the team, the coaches, everybody in this building, the fans know what kind of a game this is, and we got to bring it on Saturday.
And the other thing, just 2 quickies. Number one, when you see a Dave Adolph make a play like he did, it's not just the 5-star guys, about this team. I mean, what is it that you really like about the makeup of this team from the standpoint of the guys you brought in, the guys who are have been rising through the ranks, et cetera? Do you feel like you've got that cohesion you want at this point in the season?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we were talking about, when Berm was asking the question about your room. There's a guy right here who, is on a roster, and he's making a difference on special teams. We need those types of guys, on the team. And, how much he gets to play at receiver, we'll see as his career goes on, but he's making a difference on special teams. That's a big deal. You think about where Xavier Johnson was in his career. He made a name for himself on special teams, then became a big player. Those guys, can make or break your team as the season goes on, and they're very critical. So, a lot of guys will talk about, the Jeremiah Smiths and the Carnell Tates, but it's these other guys that are also having a huge impact on these games.
And let's think, do you feel like you have for want of another term, 3 primary receivers right now, like a lot of people thought you might have in this season, meaning Carnell, Jeremiah, and Emeka. And how does that, I don't know, enhance your game planning, so to speak, to know that they've got to prepare for 3 guys? Because, you grew up, you had a primary receiver, I'm sure, at New Hampshire.
Oh,
You understand what I'm saying? But
yeah, we didn't
they've
have
all
these 3. I can tell you
contributed
that.
huge.
Yeah, we didn't have these 3. Yeah, I mean, it makes a big difference when it's very difficult to just double or say we're going to take this guy away when you have other guys on the other side of the ball who can do what they can do. So and then again you have your tight ends, and I thought the throw and catch to G. Scott in the game, he was lined up on a Mike linebacker there, or I think it was the Will linebacker. They were doubling outside on Carnell. And so, you're one-on-one linebacker going down the middle of the field. And so the throw and catch there was excellent. But that's so we're talking about the matchup there. Or when you look at the Purdue game, they had a linebacker matched up on Travion because, the safety took away Emeka. So, all those things are important when you're trying to attack a defense. Yeah.
Great. Coach, thank you very much. Press conference Friday, 2:15 in Shoemaker. Thanks, Coach. Thanks.
Start out with Bill Landis. Bill.
Hey, Jim. It seems like Indiana is one of the better teams in the country, just executing back shoulder throws, aggressive, accurate quarterback guys making contested catches. What's the teaching point for your cornerbacks when they find themselves in those situations?
You have to be physical and violent with your hands through the route. I mean, they're very good at it. It's tough to defend, because of all the pushing and shoving that occurs and whether you're going to get a PI, but you really got to be physical back through the receiver and then violent, at the catch point. But I mean, it's, you don't want to tell your guys to, back off and worry about the PI. They got to be aggressive.
Yeah, Coach, I asked Coach Day about this. Curtis Rourke was a big run pass guy at OU, 800 yards rushing in his career there, 17 so far this year at Indiana because they haven't needed him to run probably with the blowouts. Just some of the issues you guys have had with quarterbacks being able to get some yards. Are you guys preparing that might be part of their plan to attack you this week?
I think you always got to prepare for it, right? He hasn't shown it that much, but you always have to be sound against it. And, we know we've had some issues in the past, and not really in the quarterback run game, but more the improvised scramble or quarterback draw. So, we have to work on that.
What do you like about him the most, I guess, Rourke? I mean, or what do you see?
He's extremely efficient, calm in the pocket and very efficient. Makes all the throws, gets rid of the ball quickly. In that type of offense, he's very smart and figures out, where the holes of the defense are and takes advantage.
Jim, I know that you guys like Davison's physicality and what he brings on the outside, but with the penalties that they seem to happen just one a game, is that something that you guys have almost learned to accept with the notion that he's going to be physical and you're probably going to get one a game?
No, I mean, you don't ever accept it. You just keep coaching and you keep coaching him on technique and without limiting his aggressiveness. But you don't ever accept the penalties and just say, "Oh, we're going to get one." But you keep coaching him and go through the clips and just tell him where he can get better.
CJ Hicks got in on a couple plays late in the game, rushing off the edge. You've said before that, you wanted to keep him at linebacker, but when you see him make plays like that, do you think at all about kind of changing his role and making him more of an edge rusher?
Always. I mean, CJ has that talent and that skill. So I think his future is going to involve a lot more of that.
Right here in front row, Joey Coughlin. Jim, with Davison, the way he plays, that physical style. I know there's times with the passer. Have you kind of coached a player like that, where you have a play like you have the pass interference call, but then you have the play like Penn State? I mean, just such a kind of a wide spectrum. What's like coaching that? Or have you had a player like that?
Yeah, he's different. He's different. And to me, it's fun to coach because he has that aggressiveness. He's going to throw punches, what I call, and it's a good thing. And you just have to keep working on his technique.
Right next door, Bill Jones.
You guys have not given up a touchdown in the third quarter this year. I know it's coming. How much of
Thanks,
that
Bill.
is?
Go ahead.
Would you like to be insulted? I mean, no, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I'm more used to that.
To what do you attribute that? I mean, some people say halftime adjustments. I mean, how do you explain it?
Yeah, I feel like we have veteran players who, you can make adjustments with, who, there's always a flow to every game. And, teams come at you early with different things, and that's just football. I mean, you can work all week on something and not get it at all. So I feel like our guys are veteran and they make those adjustments. They get into the flow of the game and they know more what to expect. And, they can meet the challenge.
The flip side of that is a little bit, Northwestern drove the ball on the first two possessions. A game like this, I'm sure you don't want to give Indiana oxygen. How important is it going to be to not have a repeat?
Yeah, we never want to give anybody anything. Yeah, so I mean, that's, you want to start fast, finish first, and win every play in between. But that's, I think the mentality of this game has got to be, like compete to win the game on every play because they're so efficient they're very efficient on offense. So I think you preach it all the time, but it's even more important in this game that you come out really fast.
Right behind him, Stephen Neese.
We haven't talked to you since the Purdue game, and the Jack made its debut after a couple of years being off with Mitchell out there, even though they gave up some yardage during that drive. But what did you like seeing Mitchell in that position? And you just mentioned with CJ.
Yeah, I like what those two guys do. We didn't have much in at the time, so we were limited. Just wanted to, get them involved and always wanted to get Mitch involved and CJ involved. They're good players. So, I just always think there's a future there for that package for those two guys. I think they can be really good at it.
Tony Griffin.
When you're facing a team coming off of a bye week as a defensive coordinator, you've got 10 games of film to look at this year, but you're going to see something that you haven't seen before. What's going through your mind during this weekend?
Everything. Yeah, I mean, there's, you just keep mulling it over mentally, and then that's my process. Is you take all these things and exponentially all the things that can happen, and you just keep trying to weaning it down to something that's manageable for the players. Like I don't want the players in my head thinking what I'm thinking, so it's kind of like, okay, I just keep thinking about all these different possibilities and looking at the video, but when you present to the players, it's got to be manageable. So.
Jim, I know it's like unbecoming to complain about officiating, but at some point do you guys get frustrated or ask an official what it takes to get a holding call against your defensive line?
No, I don't ask that. Yeah, it's not. I don't know that it's unbecoming. It's just, it's just pointless. It's just pointless. Spend your time thinking about something else.
Have you felt like Denzel has been frustrated at all over the last few weeks?
No, I don't think so. I think Denzel's level-headed. He practices and plays goes through meetings like a professional, and you see very little change in his demeanor no matter what happens, and that's the sign of a good player because he's just going to keep competing.
We'll wrap it up with Tim.
Yeah, Jim, I'm just wondering, do you feel like you're ringing out, so to speak, the depth chart right now with the guys you're playing? There seems to be a pretty good mix of guys going in, et cetera. And could you just name a couple of guys that have really stepped up? But mainly, do you feel really good pretty much with everybody you throw into a game and the game's basically in the crux?
Yeah, I do. I think guys who come in who do well, like, Caden Curry, KJ. I mean, those guys, they do a lot, coming in at end. I thought Arvell Reese had his best game of the year. Arvell had his best game of the year last game, which was exciting to see. So I saw a real leap forward with him last game. And we haven't been able to get them in much, but I like what Malik and Jalen McLean have been doing at safety. I really do. When they get their chance, they've been showing up. So I've been happy with those two.
And really quick, you didn't announce this, but has Jordan Hancock been activated? You understand what I'm saying? But he seems to be a lot of places, different times of the game and stuff. What do you like about just the way he's come on?
Yeah, he's got the abilities, to be he's become more of a run fitter, blitzer with the man coverage skills. So he has those skills of a corner and has been more actively involved in the front in different places. So I think he's got all the tools that you look for in a safety, in that he can cover a slot and do other things too.
Thank you. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Jim. No, you probably doesn't. All right, Will, thank you. We'll go over here to left field to Joe Newton. Go ahead.
Hey, last time we saw Indiana, their running defense was great against Michigan. What do you see out of their front seven?
I think they do a lot of really good things. Just preliminary, just watching them the last couple of days. I think they move around a lot. They show some different fronts. They got some good guys with some talent up there. A lot of guys kind of know the system, do it well. That Mike linebacker, you can tell he's in control of that system. And, I think they do some good things. So we're going to have to scheme them up. We're going to have to be ready for anything, and make sure that, any situation, whatever it is, whatever kind of movement they try to throw at us, we got to be able to weather the storm and work with that because, they like to move around and try and change things up for you, make things look a little cloudy. So, we just gotta be ready for whatever and go out there and rock them off the ball.
Well, you're third in the country in passing efficiency. I'm sure winning games is the most important thing, but as a quarterback, is passing efficiency kind of the number one stat you look at? If not, what is?
Yeah, the only stat I look at is the win and losses, man. I don't really care. But that means I'm playing good ball, and if that means I'm taking care of the football and distributing it well, and getting completions, then that's a good thing. And I think stats like that, like I don't really focus on them. They kind of come. You just kind of play my game, take it one play at a time, and if I do my job and I do what I have to do, then that number should look good. And I obviously want to be better. But I think it's solid. But there's still stuff to improve on.
When you were in the spring going through stuff, going through the ones defense, is there a moment that stands out to you that you realize how good Caleb Downs was?
I don't know if there's one moment that stands out to me, but man, that dude's a hell of a football player, man. Just watching him every week, like the way that he comes downhill and hits dudes and fills holes is pretty different. Like I've never really seen a guy be able to do that, from a safety position. And he's just the way that I was talking to somebody, I don't think I've ever seen him miss like an open field tackle. I mean, obviously knock on wood, but the dude's pretty special. And, he's obviously really good in pass coverage too. And he's as smart as they come. He's one of those guys that just knows ball and just is a he just loves it and he's all about it, and he's one of those guys. I remember after he made that tackle, in the open field on Saturday, I was like, man, I'm glad he's on my team because he's a hell of a player.
As a quarterback, I know sometimes it can be a chess match between quarterbacks and safeties. From your perspective, how does a guy like that impact what a quarterback can and can't do on a football field?
Yeah, you play the game a little bit, and especially when you're going against somebody for every single day of fall camp and spring ball, then you kind of know how to play the game with each other a little bit, play that chess match. Obviously we didn't get a ton of it just because we only had 1 year together. But it's fun, man. I like doing that. I think it's, it makes the game more fun, the chess match of it, and just kind of seeing where he's going, me trying to mess with his eyes, him trying to mess with my eyes, something I try to do in games, looking guys off, whatever it may be, kind of feeling their rotation before the snap. But I get to go against the best every single day. So, they get me ready for whatever I'm going to see week in and week out.
Well, when you decided to come here in January, you talked about wanting to go somewhere where you feel like you would develop into a top round draft pick. When you arrived in Columbus, where did you think that you most needed to get better at, and how do you feel like you've gotten a lot better now today compared to where you were at in January with regards to your draft?
For me, I feel like a lot of it just had to deal with consistency. And I feel like everything that I had been told was that I'd shown flashes of everything. I'd shown flashes of throwing the deep ball well, but hadn't been really consistent. I'd shown flashes of throwing on the run well and making good decisions on third down and in pressure situations, but it wasn't all the time, and I feel like coming here, it was like, how can I just be as consistent and as, mature as I can possibly be? And I think that's really where my game has evolved is just, the consistency part and just trying to be, take things one play at a time and not trying to be, not trying to make things happen, just letting it happen. I think a lot of it's been the coaching that I've gotten here and just the different things that they emphasize and the things that, Coach Kelly and Coach Day are hard on me for a little different than what I've been coached on before in the past. Like, just my footwork and making sure that everything's, timed up the right way and that I know everything that's going on, on every pass play, and I have a plan and I have guys I'm looking at. And I think just in every way, my game has gotten better, and I attribute that to, the coaching that I've gotten and just the competition I've gotten to go against every single day.
How much does footwork factor into that consistency and being able to be a more consistent quarterback? Does it all boil down to?
A ton. Yeah. It's a lot of it. I mean, obviously it's not all of it, there's a lot that goes into it, but I think that it's a big part of it. And, I think that as consistent as your feet can be, and, it gives you a firm base. And as long as you have those feet underneath you and you're able to time things up well, you're able to be on balance at all times. Like things like that, little things that, you don't even really think about when you're watching tape or you're just a normal fan watching. Things like that are super important.
We'll go fourth row, Noah.
This is your first home ranked game as a Buckeye. What are you expecting the atmosphere to be like this weekend?
I'm excited, man. I hope that, and I'm confident that Buckeye Nation's going to show up, but if I can say anything, man, we need y'all. We need Buckeye Nation to be loud. I know it's a noon game, obviously, everyone has their thoughts on that, but man, look, it's when we're going to play. So show up, be loud. Because, we've played 2 of these games in, opposing, road games. And, this is the first time that we're able to host a game and have that advantage of the crowd noise and the environment be on our side. So I'm excited to use that advantage. I really haven't felt like we've needed it yet at home. But this Saturday, we're definitely going to need it. Top 5 matchup. We want to overwhelm them with noise and be the loudest, hardest place to play in the country. And, we say that we want the shoe to be that place, but, we need to come through and be loud. And, I just encourage all of Buckeye Nation to show up, be loud, be early. And, cause we're going to need you guys, and, you guys are the best fans in the country. So, let's do it.
How do you think having those experiences in the 2 top 5 games will help you and the rest of the team this weekend specifically?
I think it'll help a ton. I think we've seen it from both sides, from how to, what not to do and what to do. I think we learned from that Oregon game going into the Penn State game and how to finish a game. But I feel confident that, we've seen it, we've done it. We've been in these big games. I've played in a lot of them myself. And this year, this team is seasoned. I think we played in 2 of these games now, and this is, another big matchup game. But, what we say is, it all boils down. It can come down to one play, and we gotta be ready for whatever. Gotta have a great week of preparation and just, let everything take care of itself.
When you look at this offensive line, they've had a few games now to play where they are. How do you think they're meshing in your eyes? How are you connecting with it now and moving forward? How ready is that unit for this match?
I think they're doing a hell of a job, man. I couldn't say enough good things about them. I really don't think they've skipped a beat. Everyone's talking about how different it is and how, that we're shuffling guys around, but to me, it's the same group, man. It's the same group of O linemen. Maybe it's a new face here and there. Carson's playing guard now. Donnie's playing tackle, but Carson's played a ton of football. Donnie's played a ton of football. They've had to adapt to their new roles. But I never skipped a beat with those guys, man. I'm so proud of them and how they're kind of meshing into their new roles and taking over, kind of the confidence of it. And I think they really started, when we started running the ball in that game on Saturday, it was really that O-line just kind of started taking over. And, when those guys are able to take over a game, like, we're going to be hard to beat, and I'm proud of those guys, man. I just need them to continue to maul guys up front and play the brand of football that we want to play. And, I think they're doing a heck of a job, and I'm excited to see what they do in this big matchup, because they know they got a challenge, but, I'm excited for them.
Cameron T. Robinson.
Well, kind of going back to the consistency you were talking about, from whether it's the work you did in the offseason with Jeff Christensen or the time you put in with Coach Day and Coach Kelly, how much more confident of a passer from all 3 levels do you feel like you are from maybe where you were when you came in here or before you started working with Jeff?
Yeah, I feel a ton more confident, man, just overall. I feel like I've really settled into this offense, and, I got guys around me that make plays and make my job easy. Taking, there are a couple times I took check downs that went for 8 to 20 yards on Saturday. And when you're able to do that, it's just keeps us on track. And I think that's been one of my biggest things, is that I've gotten better at taking check downs and handing the ball on RPOs and not trying to force things, and just kind of, saying, all right, it wasn't there then, next play, and we'll come back and run it again if we want to hit the deep shot, but just kind of being, caught, I want to say picking and choosing when to take those shots and when to, when to kind of hold it back. but I think at the same time, just with the work I've put in and in terms of my mechanics and in terms of my footwork, I just feel like, I don't really think about making those throws anymore. I just kind of make them, and it just kind of happens.
How much did working with Jeff help even just tweak some of the small things that maybe you were doing at Kansas State that you maybe aren't doing here?
Yeah, it helped a bunch, and he's my mechanics guy. He helps me, with any little tweak I need. Different things I need during the week. I'll call him if I need anything. But he's been great. He's given me little tidbits here and there, and he's gotten me to a point where I just feel really confident ripping the ball and throwing it, and I don't feel like I have to do anything special. I can just kind of let it happen and trust my mechanics and my training. And, a lot of credit to those people that, have helped me get there.
Well, I know you're not scouting Indiana's offense all that much, but just curious what your thoughts are on Curtis Rourke, their quarterback. He's just a really efficient guy as well. Like, you guys are like basically at the top of the charts in terms of efficiency. Just curious as like a fellow passer, if you've seen highlights of him or watched him, just what do you think of this season?
Yeah, I haven't watched him a ton. I knew he, was a great player coming out of Ohio. I know Will Kazmarek played with him there, and has nothing but good things to say about him. I haven't got to watch him all that much, but just looking at his stats, it seems like he's been really efficient, really smart with the football. Does some good things. So, I know our defense is ready for the challenge, and, they know they're going to have to be disciplined. And, I know, Curtis, he's good at taking the checkdowns too. And he's a smart player, and he does what he has to do to keep the chains moving. So, as much as we can on defense, we're going to have to, stop them on third downs and keep the ball in our hands and not let them, control the possession, too much. Cause I think that's something they'd want to do. But I haven't watched him a ton, but got a lot of respect for him and what he does.
What did you think your best throw on Saturday was?
I got to say that one down the middle of the G. I just think I just kind of let that thing rip, and that's a throw we practice all the time. And I felt like that one. I was kind of ready for that. I'd actually thrown it during the week and was a little late on it. It was BI down the middle of the field, but I was in 7-on-7, I think, on Wednesday, and I was just a little late on that throw. And on that one, I just got my eyes backside a little quicker. The safety got over top of Carnell, so I knew I was working G, and a guy with his. We always talk about a defender running with his back turned is means he's open. So just gave him a chance, and I like that one. I like the one to Carnell in the corner of the end zone. I don't know. I mean, as much as anything that's a first down, touchdown. I'm not really picky, but I did like that one.
You and Indiana transfers have been instrumental for both of you guys' success. For you guys, you and Caleb and Quinshawn and Seth, how important has it been to be able to fit into the culture? I mean, that culture fit has got to be so important. What do you think has been the key for you guys to be able to do that?
It is, and I think it talks a lot to the guys that were here and also the guys that came in, and how we kind of, tried to adapt to the culture. And we didn't try to bring in our own, individuality or, anything. I think a lot of us kind of dropped our feelings at the door and said, all right, we want to be a part of this, let's do it. And, none of us came in with any, real egos or anything like that. I think it was just, you kind of drop your ego at the door and you say, hey, I want to be a part of this, and I want to do this the way that we're doing it. And, I think Coach Mick has a lot to do with that and shaping the culture of this team. And I think the work that we put in the off season, the winter, the summer, all the stuff that we did, the mat drills and all that stuff, like that just shaped us and kind of brought us closer together and made me feel closer to my teammates here. And, when you go through stuff like that, I think we had one of the hardest, off seasons that we've had here, and probably in my career, probably one of my hardest off seasons. When you come in and you got a culture that's so defined already, and you got guys that are, so invested in it, like Jack Sawyer and guys like JT that have been here for years, and G Scott and Trey and Mech and all these guys, I could go on. And, you know, they've cemented this culture, and we came in and we said, you know, we want to be a part of this. However it is, you know, and we respect the way that we do things around here. And I think it speaks a lot to the character of the guys that came in and also to the guys that, you know, were here and established this culture.
You're playing another team, another week that's coming off an off week, another extra week of preparation. How different is it facing a defense that has had that week to add new things? Have you noticed a significant difference?
Not really. No, I mean, yeah, they have an extra week, but that's not something we can control. So, you know, if they want to show something new, they can. And, you know, we've, as the Buckeyes have kind of gotten used to that. I feel like, you know, we kind of see something new every week from guys. You know, they don't want to play us straight up. They don't like to, you know, just show us the same stuff that they've been showing every year. You know, we're, you know, we understand we're the Buckeyes. You know, we may get some different looks, and you know, that's just a part of, you know, being here and playing, being a part of this. So, you know, I think we're just going to have to go out there and see how they're going to play us. And really those first couple drives are big, and seeing, you know, how they kind of want to go about this game and whatnot, and what pressures they're going to bring, how they want to play us, and go from there.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you guys. Go Bucks.
Thanks.